Hi everyone, welcome to another Heroes of the Good Ranger video. Today I'm going to be talking about the latest Ranger team that I used in my last play session. And as a change of pace, I'm actually going to reveal the set that I used. Because, if you're watching the videos, you know which set, by the second or third person, probably even the first, which set I'm using. So I used the Ranger team that came in the Light and Darkness expansion for Heroes of the Grid. And today I'm going to be starting off with Merick Balaton, the Lunar Wolf Ranger. Now, Merick's combat deck, it breaks down the usual way as most Rangers. He has 3 3-shield cards, 4 2-shield cards, and 3 1-shield cards. Jumping right into his character ability, it is Lone Wolf. It says during each battle, until another Ranger's card is played, reduce the energy cost of all Lunar Wolf Ranger cards by 1. So Merick is a great Ranger, kind of in the same vein as Mighty Morphin Green Tommy, in that he's great to send in by himself because of his character ability, whereas Tommy got an extra die for all of his attacks. Merick has all of his cards reduced by 1, and he can still work great even in a team setting, as opposed to Tommy, who can't get his extra die if he's with another Ranger. Merick can still use his character ability as long as another Ranger doesn't play a card. He can just keep using his for a reduced cost. Yeah, it's just a really good card. I made use of it, not as much as I would have liked, but the situation just didn't really provide me with the chance to get the most out of it as I could. I just didn't have a good pairing in terms of monsters and foot soldiers that I was fighting. But next, his first character card actually is going to be Howling Wolf. Well, his first combat card is going to be Howling Wolf. It's a 1-cost reaction card with 2 shields for defense. Its ability says, play this card at the start of any Ranger turn. Gain 1 energy. You may draw 1 card. The next time any Ranger performs an attack during this battle, they may reroll any number of dice. Now notice that it does say you may draw 1 card, so you don't have to. Merick's the one who has to draw the card. It can't be another Ranger. But any Ranger, the next time any Ranger performs an attack, they may reroll any number of dice. And thankfully this card is a reaction, not a maneuver, and it must be played at the start of a Ranger turn. So you automatically give yourself 1 energy. This is the first card you play in a Ranger turn. In a battle sequence. This is the first card you play in the first Ranger turn. Since Merick is playing it, he gets a reduced cost, so this card is free, and you gain 1 energy. Then you may draw 1 card. You don't have to draw the 1 card for the next attack to be able to be rerolled. So you don't have to draw a card, but the next time any Ranger performs an attack, they may still reroll any number of dice. So you don't have to risk defeating yourself if you only have 1 card left in your deck. So just keep that in mind. And it should be pretty obvious, but you can only reroll once for an attack. You can't keep rerolling dice until you get the result you want. His next card is going to be Trick Shot. It's a 0-cost, 2-dice attack with 3 shields for defense. Its ability says if you roll any blank results during this attack, deal 1 damage to another enemy card that is not adjacent to the target. To make the most of this card, you have to be very cognizant of the target that you're choosing, because if there's only 2 enemy cards, then they're right next to each other, you won't be able to make use of this card's ability because you have to choose an enemy card that's not adjacent to the target. So this could be detrimental in the long run. This isn't a card you necessarily want to play near the end of a battle sequence because you're probably taking care of most of the enemy cards at that point. But early on, especially fighting a monster or multiple foot soldiers, it's very, very useful. And just to verify, you only can deal 1 blank. It doesn't matter how many. If you roll 2 blanks, you only deal 1 damage. I should say, you can only deal 1 damage regardless of how many blank results you roll for this attack. So it's not the most powerful card. It's only 0 cost, so it does have its limitations, but you can easily, let's say you only have 1 damage left on a monster card, you could just play Trick Shot, choose a foot soldier that's not adjacent to the enemy card, attack it, and if you roll a blank, you can deal that 1 last damage to the monster card that you couldn't defeat. Doesn't matter if it's being guarded or not. So yeah, very good card. I did make use of it once or twice in my game. His next card is going to be Claws of the Wolf. Just want to point out that Howling Wolf and Claws of the Wolf have very similar poses, so for a while every now and then I would get confused as to which one I had in my hand. But Claws of the Wolf, Howling Wolf, actually look at them, they're pretty different. One's a more zoomed out version, whereas the other one's closer and his arm positions are swapped. But still, I think they probably could have done a little better in terms of differentiating the poses for the pictures they chose for these cards. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Claws of the Wolf is a 2-cost, 3-dice attack card with 2 shields for defense. Its ability says during the next Ranger turn in this battle, instead of playing a card, you may perform an attack with 3 dice. So if you play this card before another Ranger plays theirs, then Merrick, this card is reduced by 1 because of Merrick's character ability, Lone Wolf. So you could potentially play this card for 1, roll 3 dice, which is normal, and then during the next Ranger turn, keep in mind it has to be the next Ranger turn that you use this effect. If you don't use it the next Ranger turn, then you can't use it on the following one. But it's another 3 dice attack that unfortunately does use up your Ranger turn, just to let you know. It'll use up the Ranger turn, but 3 dice for 2 3 dice attacks for 1 cost is still pretty good. If you don't get the reduced cost from Lone Wolf, this is still pretty much you're playing for 2 different turns, a 1 cost 3 dice attack, because it costs 2. It's actually pretty good. I did use this 2 or 3 times in my game, and it helped a lot. But next is Full Moon Slash, a 1 cost 3 dice attack card with 1 shield for defense. Its ability says gain 1 energy for each blank result rolled during this attack. So unlike Trick Shot, in which you only can deal 1 damage regardless of how many blank results you roll, Full Moon Slash gives you multiple energies depending on how many blanks you roll. And this is one of those cards that you'll want to add more dice to, because while you don't necessarily want to be rolling blanks, if you're trying to defeat a target, you could theoretically just play this card in the hopes that you roll. But I mean, if you're just low on energy and you just want to gain some energy for 1 cost, you can potentially roll 3 blanks, gain 3 energy, so a net gain of 2. But I say if you want to actually do some damage, you'll want to add some more dice to it with like Tyrannosaurus, and increase your chances of both dealing damage and rolling blanks, so you can get the best of both worlds with this card. I only used this maybe twice, but I know I used this at least once, and I think I got at least 1 energy out of it, so pretty good. His next card will be Laser Pool. It's a 1 cost maneuver card with 1 shield for defense. Its ability says until the end of this battle, each time an enemy card is defeated, deal 1 damage to another enemy card that is not adjacent to the defeated target. So kind of like Trick Shot, this card will deal damage to non-adjacent enemy cards. But if you play this let's say you play this as your very first turn in the battle sequence, it's completely free because of Merrick's Lone Wolf ability. And every time you defeat an enemy, you can deal another damage to a non-adjacent card. So if you're fighting a complete battle sequence of 4 monster cards or boss cards and 4 foot soldiers, you're going to take advantage of this as the battle progresses, because every time you defeat an enemy card, you're slowly chipping away at a different enemy you want. Maybe it's the next one you want to be attacking, or if it's just one that is going to, maybe it's you decide to just chip away at the very last card in the battle sequence, the foot soldier, just because it has its ability may skip your next turn or something like that. You can just do that, chip at it gradually throughout the battle. I didn't use it, but again, the situation didn't really allow me to play this. I didn't want to use up one of my Ranger turns for this card, but it's still a good card if you can take advantage of it. Finally, his power weapon is the Lunar Q. It's a 3 cost, 4 dice attack with 3 shields for defense. Its ability says after you resolve this attack, you may ready 1 exhausted Zord card. Very powerful card. I did use this. I only got to use it once because I only drew it once, but 4 dice for 3 damage, for 3 energy is really good. And being able to ready an exhausted Zord without having to use up your turn, where Alpha had Zord maintenance, he gained an energy and readied an exhausted Zord. Unfortunately, since it was a maneuver, it used up his turn. Merrick can deal some damage while readying an exhausted Zord card. And there's a reason why Merrick in particular has this ability, because like most of the Mighty Morphin, well, like all the Mighty Morphin Rangers, Merrick actually has access to multiple Zords in this game. However, what makes him unique is that he actually can use all 3 of them with whenever you pick Merrick as a character. So just jumping right into his Zords, I'll kind of explain how that works. So let's start with his signature Zord, the Wolf Wild Zord. Its ability says exhaust this card before any ranger performs an attack. That ranger may draw up to 2 cards and ignore the guard keyword. Then swap this card with the Alligator Wild Zord or the Hammerhead Shark Wild Zord. The swapped card remains exhausted. I drew this. I happened to get Merrick's Wolf Wild Zord, and once you gain one of Merrick's Wild Zords, he has access to all of them. You don't have to build up to each one of Merrick's Zords. You don't have to defeat 6 foot soldiers to get in, let's say, the Hammerhead Zord next, or the Alligator Zord for the third keep drawing that. Once you have access to one of his Zords, the other two come with it. And basically what you would do is you would shuffle all three of these and then put one of them into the Zord deck, and you'll just, as you earn Zords, the one that you put in there will be revealed as it normally would, and then once you reveal that one, just grab the other two that you set aside. You'll start with the one that you earned, and then you can swap, as you can see here, you can swap with either one as you use them. I did not use the Wolf Wild Sword, and that was to my detriment. I didn't really have a need to ignore the guard keyword when I was playing, so I didn't think about just exhausting it and not using its ability so I could swap it with one of the other Zords, but it's still a good card. I mean, any ranger may draw up to 2 cards, so you don't have to draw anything, and you can still ignore the guard keyword. And if you don't use, even if you don't use either of those abilities, you can still swap this with any of the other 2 Wild Zords, the Zord cards that Merick has. And let's talk about those other Zords. The first is the Hammerhead Shark Wild Zord. Its ability says exhaust this card during a battle. Gain 1 energy and deal 1 damage to an enemy card of your choice. Then swap this card with the Alligator Wild Zord or the Wolf Wild Zord. The swapped card remains exhausted. It's a very jack of all trades Zord card. This card is very, very balanced, I think. You just gain 1 energy, deal 1 damage. It's a very useful card, and I wish I had made use of it during my game, but like I said, it's still really powerful. Merick's final Zord card is the Alligator Wild Zord. Its ability says exhaust this card when any ranger suffers damage. Reduce that damage by 3. Then swap this card with the Hammerhead, Shark Wild Zord, or the Wolf Wild Zord. The swapped card remains exhausted. This is one you want to use if you know you're going to be coming up against a big attack, like a boss or a monster. You use this, just reduce the damage by 3, whereas most cards would only reduce it by 2. Of the 3, I think, honestly, well, I mean, it really depends on the situation. All 3 can really save your bacon if the right situation pops up. Being able to ignore the guard keyword can be vital to getting rid of an annoying passive enemy ability. Defending against something that is going to defeat you can really help in keeping a ranger in the game. Let's say if Merick had his Full Moon Slash, he was going to play it, but he's going to take a big attack this turn. You want to keep him in with the Alligator Wild Zord so he can use it later, potentially gain some energy. Finally, the Hammerhead Shark is kind of just a general one. Gain 1 energy, deal 1 damage, but that 1 energy and 1 damage can be vital. Whereas, so like Merick, since his Lone Wolf reduces the cost of all of his cards until another player plays something, getting an extra energy while you're paying almost nothing for all of your cards is fantastic. And dealing 1 damage can be any target, so it kind of works in conjunction with his Trick Shot and Laser Pool card strategies. Just a really good card. All of his Zords are really good. Yeah, just make sure to take advantage of all of them. Like I said, I didn't do it, and it would have made things a lot easier if I did. Next, I'm going to break down his combat deck a little more in more detail. He has 2 copies of Trick Shot, 2 copies of Claws of the Wolf, 2 copies of Howling Wolf, 2 copies of Full Moon Slash, 1 copy of Laser Pool, and 1 copy of Lunar Q. So Merick's whole strategy is he wants to strike first. If he's not by himself, then he wants to be striking first because of his Lone Wolf ability, so he can reduce the cost of all of his cards, and because of his Trick Shot and Lunar Q, his Trick Shot and his Laser Pool cards, he is someone who can do chip damage to non-adjacent enemy cards gradually throughout the battle. He has lots of ways to gain energy: Howling Wolf, Full Moon Slash, his Hammerhead Zord. So he's a very cost-efficient ranger, and the ability to ready one of his Zords. So if I use the Wolf Wild Zord, then I play Lunar Q. Well, I used the Wolf Wild Zord and then I swapped it with the Hammerhead Shark Wild Zord. I could then play Lunar Q to ready the Hammerhead Shark Zord, because when you swap them, all 3 cards that are swapped card comes in exhausted. So Lunar Q could re-ready them, but Merick can also ready any other Zord card, so any other ranger. So if you have the Mastodon, you can use that Lunar Q to ready it up again, so Mastodon can get rid of another enemy figure somewhere on the board. Yeah, Merick's actually a really good card, really good character, I should say. And that's pretty much him in a nutshell. So head on over to onceranger.com, check out the full card database, and I'll have affiliate links provided below. Thank you.